Hi there, and welcome to the Multiply You podcast, where we showcase top experts in their space and reveal all the secrets you need to know to multiply you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Austin Clark here, host of the Multiply You podcast, where I interview top experts in their fields and in their space. Today is no exception. We've got Dan Gordon of PCO Bookkeepers on today. We'll introduce him here in just a moment. It just so happens that he is an expert in his space, which is accounting and bookkeeping, but also specifically in the pest space, which I think will be particularly relevant for everyone or the majority of people that are listening today. So really glad to be able to have him on. And I think that we're just going to have a great conversation. This episode, as they all are, is brought to you by Moxie Pest Control. Our focus is growth. It's the right kind of growth. We grow all of the same ways that other firms do, whether you're in the home service space or otherwise. We do the best that we can to treat our clients and customers good so that they refer. We do direct mailers. We do the pay-per-click campaigns and social campaigns and all of the rest of it. Specifically, and in Arizona, we've been fortunate and lucky enough to be able to grow via acquisition. And so we're looking to be able to continue to do that. We've had recently, as recent as just the last 12, 18 months, a lot of really neat success stories about how that's gone and how that happens. And we've been getting inquiries probably a couple of times a week. And so if you're in the market, the Phoenix or Arizona market, if you know anybody that's a respectable brand, 3+ vehicles on the road that does great work, we'd love to be able to talk to them if that's something that they're looking to be able to do. They can either call or text me directly at 480-254-9730. They can email me directly. Don't email our national team or fill out a form. I'll never see it. They can email me directly at aclark@moxiepestcontrol.com. So thank you. Without further ado, Dan Gordon. Dan is the owner of PCO Bookkeepers, Turf Books and PCO M&A specialists, a certified public accountant licensed to practice in New Jersey with an expertise in pest management and lawn care companies. Dan's personally been involved with building 2 pest/lawn firms and companies that have employed over 100 full-time employees. The client base of over 200 pest and lawn care firms in 38 states. Dan, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. Good morning. How are you doing?
Great. Good. Happy to be here, and it's exciting. I always like talking about business and more specifically pest and lawn, and that's kind of what I've been doing for the past 25 years. So it's great to be here.
Yeah, really happy to have you on. As we got connected a couple of weeks ago, the way that happened for me was through some work that you certainly spearheaded along with your team. I got a hold of one of your webinars somehow, some way, and a really just powerful for me, but I think for anybody that would look at it, study that you did specifically in the pest space. And I think that we might get more into that as kind of the time trickles on. But really exciting as we've exchanged a little bit more. It's just been great to learn more about you, see what you're about, know what you're about. And I think that listeners will be real happy to have this opportunity. Tell us a little bit more then, about your background. So you've been doing what you're doing now for 25 years. Yeah. Was it always that way? Where did you get your start? How did, tell us a little bit about where you've been.
Yeah. So when I graduated from college way back when, I studied accounting at Northeastern University in Boston. And my first job out of school, actually, Northeastern is a co-op school. So you actually do these internships. So I interned with a company called Touche Ross & Company, which is the predecessor to Deloitte. There was a merger between 2 accounting firms, and so they became Deloitte. So worked for them, during my internships, and also took a job with them once I left school. More specifically, I was in the tax department doing, compliance, tax planning for transactions. At the time, it's kind of interesting. History repeats itself, and technology changes that history, but it still repeats itself. We were doing a roll up in the cable industry, which way back when was a mom and pop industry, just like pest control. And there were a few major players rolling it up into this massive industry that it is now. And that's similar to what's going on in pest. And, so I got some really terrific training in mergers and acquisitions and tax work and accounting, cut my teeth there, became a CPA. And I actually had a friend of mine from high school who he went to work for a pest control company at a high school. And so he was growing this pest control, or actually he left that company and started his own. And he was in business for probably 5 or 6 years and called me and said, "Hey, I can't do this by myself. The money's coming in, but it's going out the back door just as quick. And I need to figure out, how to get this thing under control." And, he's an old friend. So I came in to see what I could do. And when I saw what was going on, I kind of instantly fell in love with the industry. I said, "Man, this is unbelievable. This guy's killing bugs. He's making a lot more money than I am." And, so began to help him, and the relationship kind of moved on from there. And he asked me to become his partner, to lead Touche, and that's what I did. And then ultimately he had some family issues and he sold me the business. So here I am, the CPA owning a pest control company. And so we grew the company, and got an offer from a large regional company to purchase, the company that we grew. And so I entertained that, and I thought it was a pretty good idea, and sold the company and went to work for them as their CFO. And we built that into one of the PCP 50 largest companies in the country. And, so probably about 5 years into that, I said, you know what, I don't want to work for somebody else. I want to do my own thing. And two things I knew about were pest control and accounting. So I decided to go back into accounting with no specific niche. But turns out that when it was right around Y2K, and you started to get some of these cloud accounting, like PestPac just went to the cloud, and QuickBooks, you were able to put that on a server, like a Citrix server. And so my contacts, my business contacts, had become people in pest control that I met at the various association meetings and whatnot. And people said, "Hey, can you do my accounting?" And so that's how it got started. And then I realized, I could specialize in pest control and lawn care, because that's what we did. And so that was kind of the way that it worked. And currently now we got over 350 clients. I know you said 200. I'm got to update the website, I guess. 350 clients that make up close to $700 million of annualized revenue. And so the information that we get is really good stuff, right? Because, if depending on who you speak to, the U.S. Market is close to $10 billion, and we have about 7 or 8% of it who use our services. So been doing that for quite a while. Around 2012, we started an M&A division, which was a result of one of our clients doing a deal, and I just didn't think that it was structured properly. I didn't think that they maximized the value. And they also didn't consult me when they decided to sell. And so I said, I really need to get this out that we do this kind of work. And so we started that. And, last year, we did over $100 million worth of transactions. This year, I've got over 100 million lined up already. It's only March. So you can tell how hot the M&A market is. It's just white hot right now. If I were a buyer, I probably wouldn't be buying. If I were a seller, I would definitely be selling. It's that hot. So, that's kind of how we got our start. We have several client managers that work for us, that manage our, our fractionalized CFO work. And that's what we do. And it's been a tremendous ride.
And so I've got to peel that back a little bit, because you may be the first accountant bookkeeper gone into pest. You know what I mean? In that way, in that way. And so I also can't help but imagine, and you've seen this with your 200, 250, 300 plus clients, they're hiring you for a reason. Their forte is probably not the books and the financials and the, you know what I mean, and that sort of thing. And so could you say, Dan, or, as you take on a new client or point at a pest company that you see on the corner, I mean, you've got to know some of the things before you even walk in there, that not necessarily that they're doing wrong, but I mean, you have been there, done that so many times now. What are some of the most common mistakes that you see, either when it comes to bookkeeping or accounting in the pest or lawn space, or otherwise? What are some things that either people that are listening like ought to clean up right now or fix right now, or where do you usually start that process?
So sometimes we go into a messy situation and we just have to revamp the whole thing. But usually what I see is um, if you're a pest control company and you've got a CPA, that CPA is usually his or her goal is to do a tax return, right? And so the government, they want to know what your net income is, but they don't care whether your labor is technician labor or sales labor or office labor. They don't care, So,
or if you're profitable, or if you're growing broke, the government, they just, hey, you know when tax day is? Send it in. We'll catch you next year.
That's right. So one of the things that we see is that a lot of these accountants set up their chart of accounts as, a generic chart of accounts that could work for any business. The problem with that is that generic chart of account satisfies the government for what they're looking for, but it's not really a good way to run your business, right? So the first thing that we do is we change that chart of accounts. So a chart of accounts is nothing more than, organized categories of how you bring in your money and how you spend your money, right? So the government just wants to know, what was your revenue? Well, I want to know, what was your commercial revenue? What was your residential revenue? What's your wood destroying revenue? What's your lawn care revenue? And beyond that, within that categories, I want to know what's recurring and what's not recurring. I don't really care how many mouse jobs you did or how many bee jobs you did. What I care about is your monthlies, your weeklies, your quarterlies, whatever, that kind of thing. And so then I want to look to set up your direct costs and make sure that they're in the right spot, and your gross margin, and then sales and marketing, and then general and administrative. So one of the first things that we always do is we usually revamp the chart of accounts. And it's one that we've developed over 20 years. But if you were to look at Terminex, Orkin, Rentokil, any of the big boys, their chart of accounts kind of looks like ours. It uses the gross margin method to figure things out. But I think one of the biggest ahas is getting that chart of accounts to look like everyone else. So when you work with our company, all of our charts of accounts are pretty much the same. And so we can do comparisons. One of the problems, like NPMA forever was trying to do these cost studies and whatnot. And because pest control is a mom and pop industry, there's no regulation on how what your
on accounting, like, your bookkeeping, right? However many firms are out there is how many different ways plus more to do it.
Right. So when NPMA or somebody wants to do a cost study, they can ask 10 different companies the same question, get 10 different answers, and nobody's lying.
They're all right.
They're all right. But it doesn't do anything for you if you want to do the comparison. So that's standardizing it is extremely important. And then we get some really cool information. And as you referred to our cost study, that's how that was born.
Well, and I've got to, maybe we'll get into it now, but that was one of the things that just absolutely floored me about the webinar that you did. I couldn't say when that came out or when you guys did that. I would probably say mid 2020 or maybe a little bit later in 2020, by just some of the commentary about, the pandemic. But maybe we hit the economy first and then go into that cost study or that kind of benchmarking study, because like you've said, the National Pest Management Association. There's just, I don't know how many either people or firms would be in a position to provide the value and the consistency that you and your firm did. And then again, the way that I think that you organized the data was beautifully as well, as far as taking out outliers on the top end when it comes to revenue, or maybe some smaller ones on the bottom end. And so very, very accurate. The pest M&A, I think that maybe M&A in any industry or most industries are just going crazy right now. It seems that it's on fire, and it seems to kind of be mirroring the residential real estate market. My mother-in-law is looking to sell her home. It's $1 million home in a normal climate. It's not a normal climate. She's going to probably sell it for 1.5. And that's just crazy. But people are, you know what I mean? People are doing it.
It's so funny because this whole pandemic thing, everything that's happening is against logic, right? So we got a pandemic and the world shuts down. And what happens to our economy? It goes bonkers through the wall.
There's never been more money out there or higher value. And so speak to that, Dan. What is that? Are we living in a bubble? Because I'm terrified, by the way, because there is no way, I don't think, that this is sustainable, right? I mean, so many people not working, so much money being pumped out into the economy. I mean, how can a global economy or a national economy continue to thrive when you're paying people to stay at home or to not work? I mean, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but what are some of your thoughts there?
I think that, 2020 for the pest and lawn industry was a banner year. I mean, we had to do more tax planning because people made more money than I've ever seen. I think that 2021 is off to the same start. But I'm worried about 2022, just as you are, because you can't put this kind of money into an economy. The government can't just stuff the economy with money the way it has and not have repercussions. Now, depending on how, do we have a soft landing, a hard landing? I don't know. But what's kind of interesting is, when I was in high school, we had this horrible recession and interest rates were, your mortgage interest rate would be 12 or 15%. And then it went down, we've been through several ebbs and flows of the economy. But this economy is kind of interesting. And it really has been going since like 2010, after the Great Recession. It's stumbled a few times, but it just keeps going up and up and up. And this is the longest expansion we've had, I think, forever. When does it end? That's the question. Or does it? Maybe they've figured out how to not make it end, which I don't think is the case. But
it must, though, right? What goes up must come down. I mean, it really is terrifying. It's just terrifying. I mean, what, if you can say, I mean, what counsel or advice are you either giving your clients or, when it comes to the M&A, hey, if I had a pest control company or a whatever company, I'd certainly maybe consider selling. I don't know if I would consider buying, because the same deal as my mother-in-law's house. It's really $1 million home, but you're going to pay a hefty premium for that. I mean, how can pest operators stay in business, make it through what's to come? Or are we hoarding cash right now? Are we getting lean? What are you telling clients?
Well, what we're seeing is, if you believe what the current administration is saying, they're going to raise taxes, right? And they're not going to raise ordinary income tax that much. I think top level's going from 37 to 39%. But one of the proposals is to get rid of the capital gains tax for anybody earning over $1 million. And you say, oh, well, I don't earn over $1 million. Well, the year you sell your business, you will. And so what that means is that the top capital gain rate goes from 20% to that 37% or 39%. So basically your taxes just about double. Now, that said, if you have $1 million, business, you're going to sell it for $1 million, you're going to pay, $200,000 of taxes. And if we get this new law through that they're suggesting, the way that they're suggesting it, that tax bill won't be 200,000; it'll be 390,000. And so then you have to say to yourself, okay, well, if I'm in this business, how long, in order to get back to that 800,000 net number, what do I have to grow my business by?
Sure.
And if you're a young guy or a young gal, you stay in because the valuations, the taxes really don't matter now. But if you're in your 50s or 60s,
they do.
They matter quite a bit, because you may not be able to, even though you grow your business at 5 or 10% a year, you may not be able to get that money back. And so that's some of the thinking right about now that we're advising clients. And we're also advising from the accounting perspective. In a rising tax environment, what you want to do is accelerate income into the lower, so into 2021, and push expenses into 2022, which is the exact opposite of what we've been doing for the past 10 years. Because
sure,
taxes have been flat and actually going down. So that's kind of, you have that big bird job that's going to go next year. Maybe you push it into December so that you take the income this year, and all the expenses related to that bird job, take it next year because you get a bigger benefit.
Sure. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
I guess we'll learn a little bit more every day.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I had somebody call the other day and say, I got to sell my business because the election went the wrong way and everything. And like, this guy just freaked out. And at the end of the day, the sun's going to come up tomorrow. It's going to set. And there's very little. People talk about the president, how he or she, can influence the economy. And I liken the president to a guy on a surfboard in Hawaii trying to ride a wave. He can't control it. It's just too big, right? And things are going to happen the way that they're going to happen. They can certainly influence it, but the world is what it is, right? So
bigger than any one person, bigger than any one country. Yeah. Your study, I haven't looked at it or read it for probably 2, maybe 3 weeks, but some of the things that were incredibly impactful to me, and I'll not be perfect here, but I think that you had 200 or 300 plus people participate in that study. If I remember correctly, you threw out the $70 million company, you threw out the handful of $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 companies to be able to get as good a data as you possibly could. It was already good data because you and your firm are doing, you've got the standardized chart of accounts. And so it was all organized in a nice, good way. And I think that the total was like, when you put all of that together, it was like $353 or so million. And then when you divided it by the amount of firms that you had included, it was a perfect $2 million-ish pest control company, split by residential, commercial, termite, one time, right? Or emergency, some of those sorts of things. And what I think one of many things that you and others were able to conclude from that is to be able to say, hey, we have data now, take it for what it's worth, right? But that tells us that if you're a $2 million pest firm, which I think that's probably higher than average, but if you're there, or if you're striving for that, then your cost of goods, or I should say, the average cost of goods is this. Best in class is more than that. Your average, COGS is this: vehicles, field care, technician labor, uniforms, and anything that goes into producing the finished good or service, right? And and you were able to look at field labor cost. You were able to look at admin cost. You were able to say, you ought to be able to have this many people in these departments, or at least expending or budgeting these many dollars in these types of departments. One of the things that I love that you said is, we need to, I don't know if it's changing our thinking, but as pest control operators, our finished good or service is manufactured pest control hours, right? And so what are we billing per hour? That is our finished good. All of our cost of goods sold are going into manufacturing those hours. And what are we, that kind of thing. And so
that's that. So when you talk to, industry people, we're in the service business, right? But as an accountant, how do I do cost accounting for pest control? And really what we have to do is say, we're in the manufacturing business. We manufacture technician hours. What do we sell it for? What does it cost us to do it? What are the margins in it? And that's exactly right. But what was interesting about the cost study, when we knocked out the top and the bottom and then came up with this $2 million company, if we use Terminix, for example, as a proxy for the industry, the marketing mix, meaning the percentage of commercial, residential, wood destroying, pretty much is correlated to their public filings. So that is really kind of I would say it's a proxy for the industry, right? And that's pretty neat. You can't always glean the detail that we have in our cost study from a Terminix or Rollins, which is Orkin, from their 10Ks or whatever, because they're not required to give that level of detail. But the major categories, we're right there. And it's kind of interesting,
Well, and you had said that too, Dan, on the webinar, that from time to time you do sit in on, it's all public for those larger firms. And so you sit in on those calls because you can, and you can look up the data and view the data. And to be right there was, you've got the couple of 800-pound gorillas in the industry or room. And then, that coupled with your cost study, I think just provides a tremendous amount of information. Was there anything, and maybe you kind of saw it or predicted it, but was there anything that was a surprise or particularly interesting to you when that study came out or it was finally complete?
Yeah, I don't know that I was surprised at anything because I've been doing this for quite a while. So the numbers kind of, were pretty much what I expected. What I didn't expect was how many people downloaded the report, grabbed the report, or the NPMA had talked to me about giving some talks at PestWorld and whatnot, and which we did. And I was actually pretty surprised the investment community. So that opened up. We do a monthly growth index with the investment bank William Blair. That's on our other website. It's sellmypcobusiness.com, and you can take a look at it. It's free of charge. And so we collaborate every month with William Blair. I supply them with about 160 companies' revenue data. Obviously, everybody's anonymous. And what they do is they predict the growth of the business of the industry. What's really neat about that is, remember, those big behemoths, the public guys, they only report every quarter. And our data is in lockstep with what they're saying, only we can get it months earlier from because we do it every month. So it's kind of interesting. So this industry has been really good to me and my family and everybody who works here. And so we want to be thought leaders and give away information. I've had other industry consultants say, why don't you sell this stuff? I sell accounting services, and the consulting is free. If the accounting, the numbers speak so loud as to what you should be doing, that the consulting is just a quick conversation. But that's what we do. And so it's pretty neat run. So.
Well, and you're right. It's all there. Your PCO Bookkeepers website. It's there. It's published. You can download it. here's the sample chart of it. I mean, it is all there. And I'd encourage people listening, whether they're in the space or not, to look at it, because maybe you're in the pool cleaning business, which is very, very similar, or window washing, or some other home service space. So incredible.
What's interesting about that is that we're in an accounting firm, right? And we use one of the popular routing softwares that run pest control companies to run our accounting. And here's how it works. You come to me with a messy accounting situation. That's the clean out. I put you on monthly service. And once a year, I do your tax return. That's the termite renewal. And the software works great to run our business. And it also makes my staff become experts in the routing software, which you don't get from other accounts. So,
see, business is all the same. Pest accounting, you got the big one times, and you're doing it. I love that. Yeah. What is it, Dan, that you do as we kind of wind this thing down a little bit? As far as how do you keep sharp? Meaning, you're evolving every day. You're getting more education every day. Where does Dan Gordon go for more information to continue to be the expert in? What kind of books do you read? What kind of things do you listen to? Are there events or people that have been influential along the way? I mean, you can't just learn it and be done and then do it for 25 years. You're learning new things every day. And so how does that happen for you?
Well, it's interesting because, obviously I attend all the events, and, the PestWorld and the state organizations do their shows, attend lots of webinars. What's kind of neat is when I got into the industry, pest control was not exactly what you call a glamour industry, right?
Not at all.
Everybody thought I lost my mind going into it. What I love about today is because the business community has recognized how powerful the revenue model is. You've got all of these Harvard MBA, private equity firms chasing all of these companies. I'm sure you get letters, every month. Hey, we're interested in buying your company, and then you go and whenever I get them, I do a deep dive on the principles, and these are Harvard, Wharton, University of Chicago MBAs. These are the same people that 25 years ago thought I lost my mind. So we do a lot of that. I do quite a bit of reading. Obviously, the classics, Good to Great. The E-Myth, which you interviewed Michael Gerber, is probably my favorite business book. It's just it's a fantastic book. And I wrote a book as well called From Technician to CEO, and it's kind of patterned after the E-Myth. You can take a look at it on our website or go to Amazon. The website is PCOBookkeepers.com, by the way. And so that book actually became, for NPMA, they do a leadership development thing for young leaders in the industry, and it's one of the textbooks that they use. So pretty good. So I just, I love to read. I love to listen to podcasts. We do a podcast. It's called the Business Industry Insiders. So if you want to, look at Spotify or Apple, it's pretty neat. We get some good guests as well. Probably not as good as you.
No, I checked it out. You guys do. It's incredible.
Yeah. So that's, I can't say that I get my information from any one place. The other thing that I'm extremely motivated by is I have a young staff. Their thirst for knowledge is just incredible, and it's so neat to watch them grow. So
that's great. What final words, final tidbits? People that are listening, what counsel would you leave with them? What closing remarks have you got, Dan?
I'm not sure. I think that the thing about the pest and lawn industry is that it's a recurring revenue industry that, it's not an internet, get rich quick scheme, but it is a get rich over time endeavor. And some of the wealthiest people I know are people in the pest industry. They didn't just get into as a hit or miss. They spent a career in it, but it's a terrific business. Stay the course. And I think that, as in all businesses, technology is making it better and better. So.
No, I appreciate that. And it is I've not been in it as long as you, but it's filled full of good, hardworking men and women that are sweating out there every day or freezing out there every day or getting into either crawl spaces or just kind of doing some of that work, doing some of those jobs. And it's certainly been a special thing. Dan, if people need to connect with you, do they find you on LinkedIn? Do they go and fill out a form on your PCOBookkeepers.com website? How do they do that?
All of the
Okay.
above. LinkedIn, PCO Bookkeepers. We have a form fill if you're interested in our services or you're just interested in receiving our newsletter. We do a monthly newsletter with a bunch of articles, and that usually also includes a client spotlight, somebody that we've been working with for a while that had a particular issue that we were able to help them solve. So all of the above.
Wonderful. Dan, thank you so much for your time. I know it's very valuable and very limited, and I appreciate you sharing a lot of it with me and with our listeners. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We're dropping these once a week now, so continue to tune in and subscribe. And today's Friday. I don't know when you'll listen to this, but I hope everyone creates a wonderful Friday. Dan, thank you so much. Thanks for being on.
Thanks, Austin.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Multiply You podcast. You'll see us again soon when you subscribe for future episodes.